Great. Thank you for joining us, Sarah, for today in this conversation under the footprints, majorly focusing on sharing insights and sharing your journey with us to see how we can nurture the next generation of professionals. So as we get started into the conversation, the question is, as the operations director, Laborex, how is the experience? What does your work entail, and how do you go about it on a daily basis?
First, David, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to this interview. I know it has been a long time coming, and I really was looking forward to this. I'm very excited and very humbled to be part of the Footprints project, and so thank you for considering me for this. My journey into the operations director's Laborex Kenya started, I would say, about 6-7 years ago. But what does my day look like, and what is my experience working for Laborex as the operations director? First, it's an exciting experience. And it has been an exciting journey. Why do I say it's an exciting experience? Because no day is the same. I mean, yes, the job title may be the same in terms of operations director, and it actually is the operations director and company pharmacist, because I also oversee the regulatory aspects and the pharma quality aspects of the business in Kenya. But what I mean by no day is actually the same is because today it's something different in terms of operational aspects, say an issue to do with respect to something with the warehouse. Tomorrow it will be an issue to do with something with the deliveries. The following day it will be an issue to do with something with regard to our clients. The next day it will be something to do with a regulatory issue. The following day it will be something to do with a pharma quality issue, and before you know it, the week has ended. And that's why I say it's an exciting time for me at Laborex. So no day is the same. And like I said, those are 5 days which I've already said in a nutshell, where there are 5 different things that I've had to handle, and the week is gone. And Monday starts, and it's a new week and new things to handle. Yeah.
So with all the moving pieces as they are in all the different things that you need to ensure that the company is working, how do you hold it all together?
Oh, how do I hold the company together, or how do I hold myself together? Which one?
It's two different fronts.
Know?
One, how do you hold it together in the sense that at the end of the day, the company needs to keep working. So you have the responsibility of ensuring that all these pieces, that the balls are not dropping and things are moving. But at the same time, with all the moving pieces, you need to look out for yourself. How do you take care of yourself with dealing with all the dynamics around it?
So first and foremost, the truth of the matter is you can't do this all on your own. You have to have a great team. And I must say that at Laborex, I do have a great team, or we are a great team. And I do have a great support. And by that, first and foremost, the boss, the CEO is a very great support. And without a great support, really, there isn't much that you can do. And just yesterday, I was having a conversation with somebody, and we're just saying how community is very important. And if I look at work as a community, I'm very lucky to have a very supportive community. And therefore, just looking at the community that I have at work, it's a very supportive community. Without the warehouse team and the operations team in general, I wouldn't, as you say, be able to hold it together. Just having a team that knows what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, how they're supposed to do it is amazing, because then it makes it possible to be able to guide them. It makes it possible to be able to just give an instruction here and let them run with it. Give an instruction there, help, and let them run with it, come back and see what they've been able to do, guide them if, they have not been able to do it, in a certain way that you would have wished them to do it. Hold their hand here and there, where you see that they need hand holding, and sit back and watch them do it. Sometimes it's also important to let them make mistakes. Don't let them drop the ball, but it's important to help them learn to make mistakes whilst watching them making the mistakes, so that they can also learn, because it's an opportunity for them to grow, because you want them to grow, not necessarily to take over your position, but you want them to grow to be able to make those decisions, so that the day you're away, for example, you're in a business conference, or the day you're away because you're ill, you can't make it, or you're away because for some reason, family situation has a reason and you can't be at work. They need to make a decision. So it's important to allow them to falter in terms of what they're doing, so that they can learn, but you're holding their hand. So that's the key thing. You're holding their hand as they falter, so that they learn not to do the same thing again. And that's why I'm saying that it's very important to have such a team where they know that even if they falter, they can still come back to you and tell you, hey, Sarah, I did this. It wasn't quite the way you wanted me to do it, but I did this anyway, and this is how I did it, and this is the outcome. And for them to be assured and reassured that they can come to you and be honest enough with you and tell you, hey, this is how I did it, Sarah, and I know it's not the way you wanted me to do it, and this is the outcome. And yeah, so this is where we are at. And for me now to be mature enough, because hey, if I blow my top, it doesn't help anybody, and come down to it and go like, okay, fine, it's done, and we move on from there. And so you ask me, how do I hold it together? So first, it's by not screaming when somebody comes back to you and tells you that, okay, I didn't do it how you wanted me to do it. And you have to make room for that. I'm not saying that they always do it, but sometimes you know your people. And the thing that you have to be very careful about, David, is when you are hiring people, it's important to make sure that you know who you're hiring. And by that, I mean, spend time with the people who you hire. So once you have a team in place, spend time with them. This thing of sitting in the office and not getting to know your team, not walking around, sitting down with them, just asking them how their day is, asking them about their family. For me, those days are long gone. You need to bond with the team. You don't necessarily have to meet out with them, every Saturday or every Sunday or whatever. Just a few minutes, in the morning, at lunchtime, whatever time, you're able to squeeze in during the day at work, and go and ask them a few questions, how their day is, how they're finding work, how family is, to get a feel of the person. It really helps because it gives you an insight of who the person is. So then when you give them a task, you get to know and you get to understand their strengths and their weaknesses. Then this gives you an insight in terms of the work that you give them. And therefore, you also play with their strengths and their weaknesses when you're giving them a task. And when you give them a task, then okay, this plays to this one's strengths, this plays to this one's weaknesses, so that when you give them something that plays to their weaknesses, then you know how much hand holding that you need to do and how much damage control that you need to do. And by that, then you already begin to prepare yourself when it comes to what you need to do to take care of yourself, because you already know that I gave so and so task A, and I know it doesn't play to their strengths as much as possible. So I already know that I need to take care of myself in this way, because I am going to have to hold um, person X hand more than I would hold David's hand more, because I know that, for example, Sarah will need caring more than David. And because of that, I have already begun to psychologically prepare myself. And because I've already begun to psychologically prepare myself, I have already begun to take care of myself. So those are part of some of the things that I do to already begin to take care of myself. Then the other things that I do is make sure that I have me time. So I know, David, you had difficulty trying to get hold of me at certain hours of the evening. So yes, certain hours of the evening, I just switch off work. So it's my time to, once I get home, I just relax, make sure I take at least an hour or 2 hours just to de-stress. Over the weekend, also time to de-stress. If it's a good book, if it's some exercising, just make sure that I have some time to make sure that I do some activity that will help me to de-stress. So that's how I keep it together. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Having the you time is important, but also the aspect of psychologically preparing for what you're going to deal with. And I think to a greater extent, that is a blend that people need to master more. Because I feel to an extent we're kind of reactive rather than proactive in preparing for what are probable eventualities. That would be a challenge that we'd have. And I think for me, as
Very
a
true.
some of the challenge that I deal with that, because I wait for the things to happen, but I would have prepared myself psychologically to deal with them. And then it becomes a challenge. So that is a good insight. I think I can adopt that as well at a personal level. Then having a mastery of what you're doing, you're taking care of yourself and all that. How did you get to this level? What are the experiences that actually have molded you to be the person who is doing all that you're doing? As the
Wow. So I'm the type of person who sets goals for their lives. So I'll tell you something interesting in terms of how I got to Laborex, or how I got to where I am with regard to my position at Laborex. I had told myself that by the way, I really, really, really loved clinical practice. Hospital practice was my thing. I remember as soon as I was done with school, and by school I mean campus, I was like, I just want to go into hospital practice and nothing else, and nothing could dissuade me from that. So I got into hospital practice and I really enjoyed that. I loved doing that, but I told myself that I'll do that for a total of 10 years cumulatively, not necessarily 10 years in a particular hospital, but 10 years cumulatively. And I told myself, after doing that for 10 years cumulatively, I would like to transition to a corporate position, but a corporate position within the pharmaceutical industry. And David, would you believe that 10 years to the dot, right bang on 10 years after doing 10 years hospital practice, the job with Laborex, the opportunity came up. So, and by opportunity, there was an opening at Laborex for the operations director position. I applied initially. I looked at I remember I looked at the job ad and I thought, nah, this is not for me. But a friend of mine who today happens to be her birthday. So David, thank you again for having this on her birthday, and happy birthday to her. She knows herself. Called me and told me, no, man, this sounds so much like you. I mean, this is what you do for HOPAC on a daily basis. By then I was the national secretary for HOPAC. She's like, this is what you do for HOPAC. I mean, on a daily basis. Why wouldn't you want to take up this opportunity? Can you apply for this job? I'm like, no, I really don't feel like. And she's like, no, apply. And part of the reason why I wasn't in the mood of applying at that time is because of some personal issues that I was going through then. But she was like, no, apply. This is definitely for you. So I did. And kudos to her for really pushing me to apply. So I applied, and hey, as you say, the rest is history. Here I am. And like I said, it's mainly also because I have timelines for myself. I give timelines for myself, not just for my career, but also life goals. And I had told myself 10 years in total for hospital practice, and then I will transition into corporate pharma. And 10 years came, and I did transition to corporate pharma. And this is how I found myself. I find myself at Laborex almost 10 years later. And I do not, regret making the decision to have a life plan, a life goal. And I do not regret the decision to move from hospital practice to corporate pharma. And I'm still loving it. Like I said, I find it exciting, and every day is an exciting day. So this is how I am where I am today. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I really like the aspect that you have the timelines on when you're doing something to the next transition. I think that is a good bit, because it means that at the end of the 10 years, you've already started looking at what are the possibilities. Because if you didn't have that timeline, probably you would not have been active and considered the option of the advert from Laborex here. And also having people who can push you to actually take the step. And that is an interesting bit, because to an extent we make decisions, but we have people to push us to make those decisions that we know we need to make them. That is the goodness of friendship. I think that is amazing as well. Then from that bit, you've mentioned something on HOPAC and your clinical practice experience. Actually, I got to know you from your clinical practice and your presence in HOPAC. The first meeting I saw you was in 2017, thereabout, Pan-Afric. It was a HOPAC with me in the evening, and I'd been invited by Patricia Nyukabi. She was on near class in JQuat. So I was like, well, I have to be here for this activity. That is the first time I met you. So I saw you in the clinical setting as well. But then that you mentioned in HOPAC, you've been in HOPAC, as a leader in the leadership team, in leadership in CAPI, and other leadership opportunities now within Nairobi's PSK branch and all that. Why do you find yourself in this leadership, and what are the key things that you feel like are valuable in the leadership experience that you're gaining? But also, what are your key contributions in these spaces that you feel are critical in terms of your development?
So I'll tell you something which maybe many people will shy away from, saying ambition. That's one thing. In terms of the reason why I've been in leadership positions, I'm very ambitious, and that's the reason why I ended up being, excuse me, the national secretary of HOPAC. In PSK, I did at some point also end up being a board member of the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. And my last assignment, if I may call it that way, was in CAPI. And the reason why I do this is because I like to give back to the society. And for me, by giving back to the society is by giving back to the profession. The profession has been good to me. And what do I mean by that? When I joined as a young pharmacist, I was very lucky. I found very senior colleagues who were very willing and able to help me understand what it was like to be a pharmacist. They mentored me, they trained me, they coached me. And for me, it was like an aha moment in terms of, okay, so this is what I'm meant to do as a pharmacist when it comes to my colleagues, when it comes to my juniors, that I should mentor, I should train, I should coach. And at no particular moment or at no particular time should I feel that I am superior to them and that I do not have a moment or that I cannot create a moment where I can mentor, I can train, I can coach, because at the end of the day, it is a person's life that we are dealing with. It's a patient that we're dealing with. And not only that, it could be your life that I'm dealing with. It could be David's life that I'm dealing with. And if I handle it callously, um, tomorrow I could be saying that I knew David, and yet today I had an opportunity to make sure that I gave David the best care ever, you know. So I know it sounds very dramatic, but for me, that is how I took it when I joined the profession. So what I did then is I made sure that if there was any opportunity in leadership where I could make a difference and where the voice or for the voiceless, and I'm not saying by voiceless, it's those who cannot speak, but by voiceless, it's those who do not wish to speak, do not wish to be heard, or are too timid to speak. If there's an opportunity for me to be the voice for the voiceless, then I will be that voice for the voiceless. And I will help to shape policy. I will help to shape SOPs. I will help to shape work instructions, you know, you name it, anything that is going to make healthcare more affordable, more accessible for the Davids, for the Sarahs out there, just so that David can live one more day, Sarah can live, you know, one more day, Sarah can live a more dignified, more comfortable life. And for me, that is who I am, and that is what I am. That is my makeup, you know, and also to empower the patient. You know, there are those patients who, again, may be voiceless. They're not because they can't speak, but they don't know how to speak our language. And if I can be that voice for that patient, then I will do that in a heartbeat. And that's the reason why I have been in those leadership positions. And I will continue to be in those leadership positions given an opportunity to do so or to be so. Yeah.
Great, that's amazing. Looking at being the voice for the voiceless. And I think the other bit is these people might not, it might not be that they're timid or not able to speak for themselves, but they lack that platform. And you're in that position, actually, you have access to the platform and you have the opportunity to speak for them. And to a greater extent, people will listen to you, which means you are at an advantage point to be able to represent them and do something better. And I remember actually this week, there's a project that I was working with some of my colleagues as well. And in this project, one of the key things they just mentioned is the fact that we're doing it and everybody's talking about how do we improve access to healthcare services. We're talking about the technical things. Then somebody just gave an example. You're in a matatu in the city. And in that matatu, a hawker comes in and is dispensing medication, but they don't talk about the medication that they have. They talk about the pain the patient is feeling. You woke up, you actually, and your knees were not allowing you to walk around in the house. You wanted just to go to bed and sleep and all that. I have a cure. So they're talking to the pain point of this particular individual. Are you able to speak up for the patient and actually see that at the end of the day, they'll get the value? And if you're able to be that voice to make that difference, I think it makes a lot of impact and it helps us shape the healthcare system that we're hoping for So that was kind of a light bulb moment for me in that conversation, being that voice and telling the patients what they need. Because otherwise, this person is here for business. They don't care
True.
about it. Yeah. So how do you make the difference? And how do you not be the more technical person, but be the more human individual who is looking at what is the pain this person has? So that is a critical bit. And thank you for that. So in terms of your leadership experience, actually, I didn't know you were part of the board at one point in time, and that is a new discovery at this point. So any of the moments from these leadership experiences could share with us?
Any teachable moments?
Yes.
Wow. There's so many teachable moments, but I think for me, the most teachable moment is that sometimes, not sometimes, that many times in a leadership position, that it helps to be a silent observer. And by that, I mean that sometimes it just helps to remain in the background and listen to what people have to say, because it is in the silence, it is in the observations, it is in the listening, when people speak, that you glean a lot, with respect to what people have to say, that you, and going back to your example about the guy in the matatu, you begin to understand the pain points of the people, because then you filter out the noises, and you are able to narrow down to the one thing that is really hurting the Wanjiko out there, because you are able to, like I said, you're able to filter out the noise, and are able to pick out this one particular thing that is really, really disturbing Wanjiko, the one pain point that Wanjiko has tried to solve, has tried to have it resolved, but it keeps recurring, And if you keep adding your voice, if you keep speaking, if you keep adding to the other voices in the room, in the conversation, you never get to hear this one thing that Wanjiko has to say. But if you step back and say, okay, today I'm going to sit back and listen. I'm going to be the silent observer. I'm going to not speak, but I'm going to be an active listener. And I'm going to just watch and hear what people have to say, and observe the room, and observe how people react to what people say. You do end up gleaning quite a lot from just doing that one act of active listening by being silent. And that's, for me, one thing that I discovered much later, unfortunately. I kept thinking that it was important to have my views heard, but I realized much later that it was more important to be a silent observer and active listener, so that I could pick what it was that was really, really the key issue that Wanjiko really wanted addressed, that was not being said. For example, the voiceless, the thing that the voiceless was not saying, that was being said, but we were not hearing because it was being overshadowed by the louder voices. That is what I picked. That is something which I will carry from now on, and do more, and hopefully be better at, in terms of being more of an active listener, and spend more time being a silent observer, and seeing if I'm able in a room to pick out what is the pain point of those who are in the room, as opposed to having my voice heard over everybody else. Yeah.
And that's an interesting perspective, because normally we expect leadership to be the extroverted, loud people who speak up on everything. And to a greater extent, there is a challenge in terms of just sitting back and keeping quiet, especially probably you have a different and contrary opinion to whatever is being shared. So there's that urge to speak up, and I think it's good. It has to be intentional for you to keep quiet and actually just listening and see what is it that really is the pain point of discussion at this particular moment, and that is critical. So based on your mastery and actually your experiences and all that, somebody out here who is looking at you and saying, well, I would want to be Sara at some point in time in terms of my professional career, what would be your advice to them? And what are some of the trends that you see that can help them be better professional, or probably be a super Sara?
David, that is so funny. A super Sara. Okay. I used to think there's such a thing as a super Sara, but lately I'm discovering that there is no such thing as a super Sara. There is such thing as a super God. So the first and foremost is to put God first in everything. That is very key. That is very important. Like I said, it's also important to have a plan for your life. Don't just wake up one day and decide, hey, this is the direction I'm going to take. No, you must have a plan for it. Even if it's just a 1 year plan. I know we make a lot of New Year resolutions. How about making the New Year resolution and sticking to that New Year resolution? And from doing a New Year resolution, make a 2 year plan, make a 3 year plan, make a 4 year plan, make a 5 year plan, as we say, short-term, mid-term, long-term plan. For me, as you heard, it was a 10-year plan. But in between that, of course, there was short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans. And that is where I am today because of such plans. And make the plan and stick to the plan. And the good thing about making short-term, mid-term, and long-term plan is it motivates you. When you have a short-term plan and you see that you have achieved it, it gives you psych to move on to the next one. And a short-term plan gives you psych to move on to the mid-term plan. The mid-term plan gives you psych to move on to the long-term plan. So it's good to have a plan for your life, not just for your career, but also for your personal life, for your professional growth, and for your personal growth. So sit down today, tomorrow, and think through that, in terms of what do you want to achieve as David, what do you want to achieve as Sara by the end of the year, by the end of next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, from a career perspective, from a professional perspective. And what is your passion? Because by knowing what it is that you're passionate about, this will also help you drive you into discovering what it is that you want to do, be it from a professional perspective or from a personal perspective. So you really must also be able to know who you are. And by knowing who you are, it also means, do you understand yourself? And by that question, what do I mean? What is your identity? Do you know who you are? Because without knowing who you are, again, you really can't answer the question in terms of what do I want to do? Because what you want to do is based on who you are. So I knew what I wanted to do because I knew what I was passionate about. For example, I've told you that being the voice for the voiceless is what made me want to be in leadership positions. I wanted to also empower young professionals by mentoring and coaching them, because I saw that this is what is something that is important to do for the young professionals. And, hence David also reaching out to me today and doing this, because for me, this is something that I feel, one, I'm passionate about, and this is something that I love to do because empowering is part of what I love to do. Mentoring and coaching is also part of what I love to do. So what do you love to do? That would also help you and guide you in terms of what next for you. What are you ambitious about? What drives you? This will also, again, guide you into your what next. And this is what guided me into my what next in terms of my career transition. Are you thinking about career transitioning? And if you're thinking about career transitioning, so what are you ambitious about? What drives you? What motivates you? When you wake up in the morning, what is the thing that you wake up, you want to do? For example, David is really keen about empowering young professionals. He has his Footprints project and many other projects I'm sure that David is doing that in maybe the next 5 years we'll all be wowed about. We'll be like, what? You mean David was doing that? You know, what? You mean David was doing that? You know, those are the things which make David want to wake up in the morning and continue doing. Those are the things that drive David. So what drives you? What's your passion? What's your motivation? What's David's motivation behind what he's doing, behind the Footprints project? You know, those are the questions that you should be asking yourself. And what will get you from point A to point B? Those are also questions that you need to ask yourself, because yes, there's the drive, there's the motivation, there's the passion, but then you also have to stop and ask yourself, okay, I have this motivation, I have this drive, I have this passion, but okay, so what will get me to move from point A to point B? And I think that's something that, you know, you could reach out to David and ask him, okay, so David, how did you move from coming up with this idea and this concept of the Footprint project to actualizing it? Because there's also this aspect of actualizing it. Then with anything and with everything, you must also be comfortable with rejection. You must also be comfortable with failure, because it will happen. Rejection will happen, failure will happen. You must also be comfortable with that. And you must have a plan with respect to rejection. You must have a plan with respect to failure, because not everybody is going to say yes. Not everybody is going to feel your idea. Not everybody is going to understand your idea. So what's your plan for that? And what are you going to do when somebody says no? What are you going to do when somebody says, nah, I don't think that that's a good idea? And what are you going to do when somebody says, no, that's not a good idea? And then guess what? You see them do that very idea that they told you was not a good idea. What's your plan for that? And I'm sure, maybe, I'm not saying that this has happened to David, but if it has, you know, David, what did you do about that? You know, so those are things which, you know, must come into mind. Have you prepared yourself for that? Have you prepared for yourself for rejection? Have you prepared yourself for duplication? You know, and planning. This takes planning. This takes planning. This takes planning. Don't just imagine that David woke up and said, hey, okay, let me invite Sara, and it happened. No, it takes months and months and months of planning. So what are you doing about that? Have you planned? Have you thought about who your next guest is? Have you thought about your next 3 guests? So what happens if your guest number 3 drops off? Do you have a guest number 4 who can take guest number 3's place? Do you already have the questions in place for guest number 3? Do you have the questions in place for guest number 2? Do you have the setting? Do you have, you know, like I said, planning, you know, those are things which you have to put in mind. And the other thing is also luck and opportunity. These are things which happen, sometimes happenstance, you know, chance just happens and you meet the right person, you meet the right opportunity, you wake up in the morning and you just have an aha moment, you have a brilliant idea and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? So you also need to prepare yourself for such things. Open your mind to, and I like the way the South Africans say it. They have this beautiful slogan, alive with possibilities. Open your mind to being alive with possibilities. Everything can be a possibility. So just open your mind to the fact that you could be having a conversation with somebody and somebody says something and it is a light bulb moment. Use such opportunities. I know it sounds cliche, but carry a notebook and a pen with you everywhere, because somebody may say something and you know what? That could be the tagline that you were looking for. That could be the beginning of a show that you were looking for. That could be the beginning of a book that you have been wanting to write. So be alive to opportunities, be alive to possibilities, be alive to a lot of things. But the question is, and I'll go back to asking you, is what's your passion? What's your drive? What's your ambition? What's your motivation? Are you interested also, or are you just one of those who wake up in the day and you're like, okay, I've woken up, today's a Saturday, and you just go with the flow? That's not how life is meant to be. You're meant to do something. You were created, to do something. You were created for a greater purpose. And so find your purpose, because you have a purpose. I'm so excited that David has found his purpose and he's living in his purpose. So find your purpose, because you have been created for your purpose. My purpose is to be a voice for the voiceless and to empower people to do more so that they can be more. So what is your purpose? Find your purpose. Thank you, David.
Thank you. That is like a full sermon by itself. And it's very powerful in the sense that at the end of the day, we all want to be a super something and super what, but what are we grounded on? And I think the aspect that you bring in the spirituality, there's a super God, and that God gives us the capability to pursue all that we want and the ability to actually execute on them. But at the same time, we have to be intentional to plan, to see what are the countermeasures that we're going to put in place. And when you talked about it in the sense that you have an idea, rejection, there are so many rejections that will always come our way. And actually, I've dealt with so many of them in different spaces and different spheres, which is part of life. The question is, how do we move beyond the rejection? The other places where the idea is being taken by someone and you actually become the mini kind of, you are copying whatever is already in place. But in reality is, that was your idea before it became one of the solutions. So you have to follow up and just do what you need to do. But the difference is, you know the vision, you know the reason as to why you are doing it. At the end of the day, however much somebody might copy it and do it the way they're doing it, they might not have the real grounding on why you're doing it. So the why makes a difference. And something that is important actually that you mentioned that I think we need to capture and be grounded on is the fact that there's a difference between ambition and there's a different and wishful thinking. And that is a specific on what are you going to do? What will get you from point A to point B? And this was actually told to me by one of my former lecturers and a mentor when I paid him a visit in Kajiado a while back. And he was saying, well, you have ambition, yes, but everybody would say they have ambition. I want to buy a car by the end of the year. I want to build a house and all that. How are you moving from the apartment where you're renting to buying land and actually building that house? You would say you want that. There's the wishful thinking and there's the ambition with a plan on. These are the building blocks to make it a reality. And then you execute on it. So I think that is a very profound approach in terms of how we execute and how we be better individuals in our lives. So yes, beyond the professional aspects and the professional development aspects and the pharmacy career, who is Sara?
Oh, wow. Who is Sara? Um, wow, that's a good question. So beyond the pharmacy career, Sara is fun-loving. Sara loves to read books. Sara loves to binge on Netflix when she can. I love movies. I love series. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. There's one I saw the other day on Netflix, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's weekend. Yeah. Sarah loves family. Family means everything to me. Family really grounds me. I look forward to holidays with family. It's fun. And like we were discussing just before we started recording, I love shags. It's peaceful, it's serene. It gets me to a zone where, if I really want to um, make a decision. And now this is my secret. If I really want to make a decision about something, that is a major decision in life, that's where I go. So if you hear, the gombes and the cuckoos in the background, and just know that I've gone I've gone to make a major decision
Sure,
about
yeah.
about something. Yeah. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's who I am. Yeah.
It's great to know you. And actually, I also enjoy going back to the village. It's one of the key breathers that I get out of the hectic Nairobi life. So when I'm there, I feel like at least my mom will always be there with stories. My dad showing me all the projects that he's doing. Just keeps life moving, yeah. So that's great. Then what is success to Sarah?
Wow. That's a very profound question. Um, so I'll tell you what I used to think success was. I used to think success was in form of material things. And by material things, I would say, a house, a car. I still think in some aspects, yes, a house, a car, um, education can be a form of success. But for me, success now is different. It's more of, do I know who I am? Um, my identity? Do I know my purpose? Um, do I know why I wake up every morning? And am I at peace? And um, the answer to those questions are yes. Do I know my identity? Yes, I do. Do I know my purpose? Yes, I do. And am I at peace? Yes, I am. And for me, that is success. And as I say that to you right now, would I trade those successes for anything else? No, not right now. Where I'm at, and just the feeling of peace, especially. No, I wouldn't trade that. And for me that is success. Just that feeling of peace and knowing my identity, my destiny and my purpose, and the fact that I'm at peace, that is success to me. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
actually, that reminds me of your articles on Omayas Heart.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
keep at it. And maybe you could share more in terms of the what you do with Omayas Heart if you're open to that.
Oh, so so the journey with respect to Omaya's Heart began almost a year ago. Yeah, just a little under a year ago. Um, it all started with, again, going back to me discovering my identity, my destiny, and my purpose. And and I thought that having discovered, my identity, my destiny, and my purpose, that it would be important because part of that journey led me to know who I am, my identity. It also led me to know that my purpose is to be a voice for the voiceless and to empower people to do more so as to be more. And it really means a lot to me to get people to get to know that they can be more. I mean, there's nothing that pains me when I know that you can be so much more, David. I don't know how to explain that. When I know that somebody has so much potential, but there are all these, boxes, be it physical boxes or invisible boxes, such as limiting beliefs that make somebody not see their true potential. That really pains me. And if I'm able to, get somebody to break, those boxes in which way that I can, that really makes my day. And I love to do that. And thankfully, I've been able to do that for a few people, and I know how gratifying that makes me feel. And, for me, not only does it give me satisfaction, but just knowing that that is all for, the glory of God is even more amazing. And I felt that because I have been empowered in this way in terms of understanding just who I am, that why keep this to myself? And hence the start of Omayas Heart, from Omayas Heart, which are the articles on LinkedIn. And initially, they were meant to focus more on career and career transitioning. And that was the first article, which was on career and career transitioning, because I do know that a lot of people are stuck in between the current career and want to move on to another career and don't know how to do it. And because I was able to successfully transition from hospital to corporate, and I know a lot of people who thought that was very bold and crazy move to make. I have a lot of friends who thought that I was crazy for doing that. And I thought that they were crazy for not doing that, because I was like, why would you want to stay in, one place for so long? And they were like, why do you want to make such a change at such a stage in your career, But remember, I told you that I'm also very ambitious. So I was like, no, I think it's time to move, to something new. So because I know that there are people who have that, who are scared to make that jump and do not have somebody who they can, bounce off ideas with. I had thought, okay, let me start the articles from Omayas Heart. And by from Omayas Heart, it means, directly from my heart to you, without any filters, without any pretense, without with nothing, no filters, just telling you, the truth as it is. If it's black or white, it's black or white, if it's A, it's A, so if it's B, it's B, and I said, okay, so this is how it's going to be. And Omaya is my middle name. So I figured, okay, let me also use an authentic name that is from, within and straight from the heart, and hence the name From Omayas Heart, and speak about things which are directly from my heart, and to people who I may know or may not know, and just tell them all, as it is, right from my heart to your heart. So hence the beginning of the articles. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And actually, reading them, there's authenticity, there's a vulnerability in it, and there's the being you that comes out of them. I can only relate it to the books that I've read about this lady by the name Brené Brown on vulnerability as a way to actually driving social change. I think that's amazing, and I'm really proud of the work that you're doing on that. Keep at it. As a beneficiary who reads behind the scenes, I'm enjoying it, and I really appreciate you for that. Yeah, so that's great.
Thank you.
So my last question would be, pharmacy as a profession for you. I know you wanted to be a graphology, or rather, yes, to take graphology as a course. Pardon me, because it's the first time I heard of that term, and I was like, what does this even mean? So maybe you could tell us more on that. Then the other question that I would just add to that is, because from my searches and understanding what graphology is, study of handwritings to be able to actually understand people. Don't you think with the technological era you would be jobless?
So, one, I guess I guess now maybe you can determine how old I was, because then we didn't have so many technological advances.
Yeah.
But I was very interested. So it's a form of psychology. And I was very interested in knowing about people. And for me, I was very keen in understanding people, especially the hidden aspects of people in terms of um, the thing that somebody cannot hide about themselves. There's a certain way you can learn to speak and you can fool somebody. There's a certain way you can learn to walk and you can fool someone, but you cannot change your handwriting constantly and fool somebody. So that is what intrigued me about handwriting and graphology, because I was like, it's like a fingerprint, I was like, this is the one thing that somebody cannot change constantly, or you can wake up, or you can wake somebody up in the middle of the night and ask them to write something. For sure, it's going to be the original handwriting, because they would not have thought through that, and that's what really intrigued me about it. Not to say that I had people around me who were such deceivers, but 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 I mean, that is what really intrigued me about it, that it's the one of those things which you just cannot fake, And for me, one of my core values is authenticity. I really, really, really need people around me to be very authentic. And I also need to be authentic, when I'm being myself with you and with everybody else, And this I only discovered like sometime last year about what really drives me. And I guess that is also what was really driving me about, being drawn towards graphology. And so that time, the kind of jobs or the kind of people who would hire me would be banks, because of, those days checks were the in thing to write, So there would be checks, there would be psychologists, in terms of, because there was a lot of letter writing, there wasn't too much internet and that sort of thing. There would also be forensic analysts, and a lot of forensic analysis that would go on, and that is what was really my key focus. I was just thinking about forensics, and I remember then one time when I was having a conversation with my parents, I had done with Form 4, and now it was okay, so like now what next, in terms of okay, campus and whatever. And here I was very excited because I'd bought these books, of course with pocket money, about and handwriting experts, graphology, you know, I had so many books, you know, I was that much interested. You know, the way you get pocket money and go buy whatever. I used to buy books on handwriting experts, okay, on handwriting analysis, you name it, you know. So there I was having a conversation with them and telling them, so they're like, okay, so Sarah, what do you want to do? And I'm like, very excited, very confident, telling them graphology. And they look at me like, what is, what is that? You know? It was so funny. And I had researched and I had seen how I would go to one of actually it was USIU. I had seen how I'd go to USIU, study psychology, and then after that go and major in graphology. You guy, I had done my research, okay?
Plan.
And then I remember my mom asked me whether or not I want to be hired by the Kenya police because those are the only people who would ever hire me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that just killed my dreams. And that is how I ended up doing pharmacy.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
from handwriting analysis to pharmacy school. That is how I ended up being a pharmacist from just one conversation, one question on who will hire me. And yeah, so here I am.
I believe it was a good decision because actually it gave us a chance to meet you and experience your professionalism, your insights, and to learn from you. And the inflection point being Kenya Police.
Yes. Yeah, Kenya Police.
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much. So any last remarks?
I first and foremost, David, for you is that you are doing an amazing job with your footprint project, and that you are touching many lives in terms of not just from a mentorship perspective, but also giving young professionals an opportunity to get to understand who they are and feel their space. And I hope this will give them an opportunity to get more encouragement and get the drive to also start their own thing in terms of their own, get into their own spaces of, you know, some projects, some form of projects where they encourage other younger professionals to get together as young professionals, because it's through community, like I had said earlier on, that you're able to go far. You can go far as an individual, but you only go further as a community. And I hope that as you and your younger professionals start such things, that you will band together. And as you band together, you create earthquakes, for lack of a better terminology, so that we get to know you, we get to hear you, you get to be the movers and the shakers, and you get to make changes, not just in the healthcare field, but in all other fields, because it is only through working together that we can get such changes. And it's time for Africa. And I love what you're already doing for Africa. It's time for Africa, and it's time for the world to know that Africa has all the solutions. We really do not need to go out there and look for solutions. We have the solutions amongst us, within us. We have the abilities, we have the capabilities, we have the skills, we have the motivation, we have the capacity I don't think there's anything that honestly we lack. We even have the technology, David, and really thank you for being able to do this through Zoom. We really have nothing that we are lacking. If it's the motivation, you have shown me that we have the motivation to be able to do this. So if it's a matter of getting us to come together, I mean, feel free to call me anytime. I shall gather up my fellow pharmacists when we shall band together and support you, because this is a great initiative that needs to be supported, that needs to go as far and as wide as it can, because it is for a worthy cause. It is for an opportunity to showcase what we can do as Africa, showcase what our young professionals can do as Africans. And David, you are doing an amazing job, really. I cannot say or sing your praises enough when it comes to that. So kudos to you, and keep doing what you're doing with respect to the footprints project. And thank you once again for the invite. It was really humbling, and what a wonderful interview it has been.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a very insightful, engaging, and fun conversation. I hope our listeners and our viewers will enjoy the conversation as well and share with us as we move forward. Asante sana.
Thank you.